Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I'm here in Tokyo, Japan, where I'll be living for the next little while anyway. And today I want to talk to you about how I learned harmony on the guitar, and especially harmony in the context of jazz guitar. Because I learned this in a bit of a, different way. It was kind of an accident for me. I didn't set out to learn things this way, but it just happened that way. And I realized, I'm not saying that it's the best way to learn, far from it. There are many ways. The best way to learn is the way that works, but this is just the way it happened for me. And I had a lot of fun learning this way, and I just want to share with you this process that I went through. It was an accident. And because I wasn't so aware that I was practicing it this way, you could say that it was a very organic, natural process. Organic in the sense that whenever I was just playing and just having fun, I was also practicing. And that, in my opinion, is always a great habit to have. Anyway, so this video, just a little quick word of advertisement. If you enjoy what I do, you can consider buying some music on Bandcamp. You can buy some stuff on DC Music School, or you can check out some of the courses on Soundslice. So something related to what I'm going to talk about today is my series on jazz harmony, practical jazz harmony. I think it's a unique course. I've released a few volumes already. People have asked me when I'm going to release the other ones. Actually, I filmed about 12 hours worth of material over a year ago, but we still need to edit them. But I think it's just my opinion, sorry for showing off a little bit, but I think it's one of the best harmony courses out there. It's a unique harmony course that teaches things not from an academic perspective, but from a historical perspective. So I teach you how jazz harmony evolved over the years from the early days of jazz. Because nowadays when you go to music school, you tend to learn jazz harmony from a specific era, and it kind of like just skims through the earlier era, but it's the earlier era that is the foundation of jazz harmony as we know it today. And of course, the earlier era also comes from classical music, so I also talk a little bit about that. So it's a unique course. Check it out if you're into jazz guitar or jazz harmony. You'll find all the links in the description box. All right, let's get started. So there are a number of things that helped me a lot when it came to learning jazz harmony. And why learn harmony anyway? Well, especially for jazz, if you want to play the vast majority of standards that have chord progressions 2-5-1, 1-6-2-5-1, 1-1 dominant 4, 2 dominant 5, etc., this is extremely important. And the more you know about harmony, the more you have choices available to you as an improviser. In fact, many of you know that I come from a gypsy jazz background, and I worked a lot with renowned gypsy players. And if you've watched some of my other videos where I talk about this culture, many of these players don't know any theory. They don't know what a 2-5-1 is. They don't know what a scale is. And yet many of them learn to play at an extremely advanced level and doing really complicated things. But they learn in a very organic way. And I've noticed that among these players, those who, even though they learned on their own, those who try to explore harmony on their own, in their own way, the ones who really put some thought into harmony are the better improvisers. So like Birelli Lagren, Angelo Debar, Rocky Gresset, as they say in French, Brady Winterstein. We just released the course on not Sound Slice, DC Music School a month ago, and all these players. Anyway, so yeah, understanding harmony will help you create better lines, and we'll talk about all that. So if I go back to my early years, one thing that helped me a lot was I did have this teacher who introduced this idea of playing around with chord shapes. So I remember like I talk about this in my harmony course too, but we would start with a shape. Let's just say this one, C. And basically he had me change notes to see what new chords would be created from just modifying one note. So if you had this C major 7, bring this finger down 1 fret here, gives that sharp 11. Going back here, bringing this note down 1 fret, minor major 7. So that's already something that I started to do from a very, very early age. I had so much fun just like creating new chords, just sometimes even changing 2 notes. And I would try to, in my head, analyze them to see like what happens when I put this here. Okay, that's the 6. And here that's the major, the sharp 11. And here the major 7. So it's a funky C major chord. And then I would try to use these over different songs. Well, I would use the ones that are easier to understand because some of these chords are weird. But the basic ones, I would do this. And so in doing this, I got to understand the chords at a cellular level. What I mean is, instead of just learning a grip, like here's a C major chord, I took the grip, but I understood what each note in the grip represented. So this is the root, this is the major 7, this is the 5th, this is the 3rd. So maybe sometimes I want to omit the 5th, and I just have this. Maybe I want to omit the root. So that's one thing that I did that was very, very, very beneficial. Another thing that was extremely beneficial is when I started to get into gypsy jazz, like really seriously into it, which is pretty much right away as soon as I discovered Django. I started to listen to the music, and I started to transcribe a lot, figure out the chords. My ears in the beginning were not so advanced, so I remember I did get some help with trying to decipher some of the chord voicings that Django or other players would play. Chord voicings, not in the rhythm section, but like in the little chord shots that Django would do. Something like, let's say over an A minor chord, he would do this. Actually, this one I managed to pick it up on my own. There were some that were easier to figure out and others that were harder. So I didn't always get help. I was sometimes able to figure some out on my own. But this one, A minor 6. So I heard Django use this. I was like, oh, that's a very cool sound. And then in another recording, I would hear him use this over a D7 chord. And then realize, oh wow, you can use this over a D7 as well. And then I would hear him use it over an A major chord. Oh wow, you have this minor 3rd, which is kind of like a bluesy sound. So listening to a lot of gypsy jazz players using these little tiny chords and expanding my chord vocabulary by just checking them out like that. And I would do the same thing. I would take these chords and I would modify them to see like what if I can get different sounds. Here we have the major 7. So I was always continuously experimenting in this way. I never learned things like drop 2 and 4, drop 3. I know what drop 2 is off the top of my head because I've heard it enough times that I know it's this. But the way I discovered drop 2, again, was from that playful thing. I would have this chord, just chord grip, and I would just see what happens if I went through the inversions. And then later on I was told, oh, that's drop 2. If you were to ask me what drop 2 and 4 or drop 3 were, I mean, I could figure it out right now, but off the top of my head, I don't even know what they are. But I bet I know those chords already. Let's just figure it out right now. And I swear this is a non-scripted video. I'm kind of just winging it. So drop 3. Let's take a G dominant 7th chord, or A dominant 7th, B flat dominant 7th. So let's see. Drop 3. So it's this one. This gets dropped here. Okay, and we still have to play, so get rid of this note. Still have to play this note and this note. Obviously not convenient. Do I know this voicing? Hold on. Oh! I do know it, you see? And I guess if you continue, if you go through the inversions, what do you get? No, that's not right. So, do I know this? I do. I know drop 3. You see? What's drop 2 and 4? Let's see. So this goes down an octave to here. So, and this goes down an octave. Ah, of course I do. These are voicings that I use all the time, but I discovered organically from just experimenting. And then another thing that helped me a lot, and I was always combining all of these ideas, was to look at songs, learn a lot of songs, and try to visualize chord shapes over the melodies or even over the solos. So if we take a song like Stella by Starlight, just in the beginning, just using simple chords. The first chord is E minor 7 flat 5. And the chart will say C minor 7, but then it has this note. So then you learn this new voicing, C minor 11. The chart will say F minor 7, because in the beginning I didn't know harmony so well, so I just followed what the chart said. But I just add these notes. So then you see, oh, F minor 9. Anyway, etc., etc. You can take other songs like Green Dolphin Street. This is interesting chord. So doing this exercise, well, it's not an exercise, it was just very playful for me. I just figured this out like by having fun, really. So 3 things already. Just that little exercise that my teacher back in the day showed me. 2, listening to a lot of my favorite guitar players, and later on pianists, but guitar players, especially in the gypsy jazz style, like figuring out all the little cool chord tricks they would do. I remember like Stokely Rosenberg with this. So that's a cool way to play E minor. And watching a lot of gypsy players play their chords, you know, I learned this from watching gypsy players like G7. I didn't always understand the theory in the beginning. I just thought it was cool. Like you can do this over a 2-5-1 in the key of C. So G, it's an F over G. And then I know the theory now. It's like a D flat over G. But back in the day, it's just like, okay, I just memorized this shape. And it's cool voice leading. So doing that, checking out other people's chords and just trying to use them on different tunes. And then the idea of looking at melodies or lead lines and just seeing chord shapes beneath the lead lines. Yeah, I remember like even since I was coming from a gypsy jazz background, let's say like the 1937 solo to minor swing. That's the solo, right? The beginning. But what I would do is actually see this. Or boom. And when you learn this way, and especially when you're not so familiar with chords in the beginning, it might be a slow process because you're figuring out all these harmonies. And what I just did now was very spontaneous. But as you keep doing it, you get used to it and it goes faster, and it is so incredibly beneficial as an improviser. So those are the three things that I did. Then the fourth thing that I did is when I started lifting solos by other players, not just gypsy jazz, but even like Wes Montgomery, Joe Pass, and all that. I would notice that a lot of the lines that they played were derived from chord shapes. So when I would see a guitar player do something like, I could see this. So from lead lines, I was able to see chord shapes. Like someone played an altered kind of idea, let's say over A7. I could see. So I also learned new voicings by checking out what the lead players were doing. So it's a combination of all this and constant experimentation that allowed me to discover all these chordal possibilities. Like I'll just tell you from Wes Montgomery, if we went back to that song Stella by Starlight, I'm not saying, I don't even know if he recorded it. I think he did, I'm not sure. But anyway, I learned from over an E minor 7 flat 5 chord, Wes would play this. And adds this interesting color. It's an E minor 9 with an 11. But since I knew the original chord was E minor 7 flat 5, I would change things. All right, this is what Wes did, but what if I did this? And I come up and then I try to do some nice voiceling. A7. Just discovering new chords in this playful manner. So that's where it all comes from, because I loved chords so much, and since I was playing gypsy jazz, I was playing these kinds of rhythms. And one day, it's not that I got bored, but I started to see if I can come up with interesting accompaniments that involved bass lines. So I heard Django do some certain things like, and with the knowledge that I had and all the things that I figured out from Django and all these players, I tried to make up my own bass lines. From a practical point of view, the most important thing for me though was learning a lot of songs and then trying to use all these ideas across different songs, listening to different recordings to hear the passing chords that pianists or guitar players would play. In the beginning, again, my ears weren't so advanced, so I was more studying guitar players, and when I recognized things that I had played before, I would hang on to that. But eventually my ears, just because I kept doing and doing, my ears got better and better, and then I could hear kind of the special colors that pianists would use as well. So that was a huge thing. So then, why is this important from a soloing perspective, especially when you're learning jazz standards with all these chord progressions? Well, as you can probably guess, you're going to see a lot of melodic pathways derived from the chords. And also, you're going to learn about the importance of the chord progression rather than the individual chord. It's something that I talked a lot about in my previous videos. I talk about this in my course, this thing that I call harmonic direction. So as a beginner, when you look at a chart from the Real Book or nowadays the iReal Pro, you have all these chord symbols. And a lot of students in the beginning take them a little bit too literally. When you listen to like hardcore jazz players, they didn't always perfectly respect the charts. From chorus to chorus, little things would change here and there. And by studying harmony, you start to get a natural feel for which chords are important, which chords are less important, which chords can be changed. And eventually you start to understand, rather maybe not understand in theoretical terms, but you start to feel it, and you can just feel that, oh, over this chord maybe I can replace it with this or that. And then what that's going to do, it's going to inform your soloing. So just the other day, like a few weeks ago, we released Birelli-Lagren course on DC Music School, where he's playing over a lot of jazz standards in the bebop style. And over polka dots and moonbeams, over the 251, he played these chords, which is that Wes Montgomery chord I showed you earlier, G minor 11. And then over the C7, he played this, which is that thing I showed you earlier as well for the G7. Sorry. I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And I thought to myself, all right, what do we have here? So there's some melodic ideas in it. So I ended up creating a phrase almost instantaneously. It's based off of this. Here it is again. In time. So there we go. That's why I think harmony is super important. And doing these little playful, I wouldn't call them exercises, but just games, playful games, I got, well, if I can say, fairly fluent at visualizing my fretboard and seeing all these fairly basic positions. And it's just very, very organic. For me, of course, we all have automatic, what do you call them, muscle memory habits. But and we should take advantage of those. But I think the next step is that despite these automatic habits, you should have a reason for wanting to play X or Y chord. And for me, that comes from really understanding, if I play this voicing, what are these notes and where are they going? So for example, if I'm playing this to C7, I can have this little inner voice leading thing going to F. This, then going to an F like over here. I mean, it works. It could work, but D minor 7. That D minor 7 becomes a D7 to G minor. To F. So it's this playful thing of playing these chord shapes, but being able to see what each note represents, and then you manipulate things in a musical way. So if I were to take a song like All the Things You Are, which is relatively simple, let's just say I start with a random chord like this, 3 notes. To get to B flat minor. E flat 7, A flat, G7, to C, E flat minor 7. Now I'm not playing the minor 7, so this is not good. Looks like an E flat major 7, but I'm thinking C minor in my head. F minor 7, B flat, E flat, A flat, D7, G, A minor, D7, G major 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, E major 7, C7, how would I do it? Like this. Back to F minor. C minor 7, and then after we get to a B diminished, so this is cool. B flat minor 7, E7, A flat major 7, G minor 7 flat 5, D7, G. Very playful. And from all these chords that I played, I don't even remember what I did anymore, but I would be able to come up with different lines. So it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't see chords, melodies, and solos as 3 separate entities. For me, they are all part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's say here, if we go back, let's say we go back to this. This is B flat minor, so G. Where was I? Yeah, this. F. flat major. So I went to D flat minor major 7, C minor. And then the next chord is that B diminished, but I have, because I've been doing this for so long, I know other substitutions available. I'll play G7. So from here, so there we go. That was a lot of fun for me to learn this way. So hopefully it can give you some little ideas as to how to learn to visualize the fretboard a little bit better. Like I said, it was a super playful way of learning for me, and lots of fun was had doing it.